All right. Well, good morning. And my name is Danielle Casey. I'm the Executive Vice President here with the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. And I am thrilled to welcome you all to another really amazing installment of our web series. So we're going to be getting going momentarily, but I am also your friendly housekeeper. So I've got some of the housekeeping notes for today's program if anyone's interested. This webinar is being recorded. So following the program today, we're going to send you a really nice note asking you to please fill out a survey, giving you an opportunity to ask the panelists additional questions that we can also use in another upcoming program I'll tell you about. And then it'll also give you a lovely link that'll allow you to download or view the video from today's program so you can share it with all kinds of friends and colleagues and neighbors and whoever you think is going to be able to benefit there. So I'm sure it's going to be really entertaining. If anybody has technical issues, please use the chat function if you're having any problems or thoughts or questions from that regard. If you have questions for the panelists, please use the Q&A button, and that way we can better keep track of what questions we've answered that we either want to tackle at the end of the program or maybe try to follow up with you on later. So today I am really excited that we are partnering with HGA to produce this program. And they're going to be sharing some really insightful data, so no need for me to even get ahead of that. But this is a result of the survey of 3,500 professionals across generations from a huge wide range of industries working in various roles to gain a deeper understanding about the future of the workplace. So I think this is going to be really cool data-driven insights today, you know, talking about the future of the workplace, what we think it's going to look like, and then what they are already doing and thinking about to solve for some of these issues. So before handing it over, I'm going to introduce our speakers for today. I'm very excited to have Heather Kampa and Dr. Amin Mojtahedi here with us. So a little bit about Heather. As corporate principal for HGA's Sacramento office, her focus is on the built environment and how it affects the health and well-being of its inhabitants. Obviously with COVID-19, the emphasis is just especially and astronomically important, has changed in ways that I don't think any of us ever anticipated. So as you know, as Heather and her team start equipping clients to embrace change through innovation, they're launching tactical solutions and designs that are people-centered and focused on emotional and physical safety. And I've got to say, I think we've all talked about the emotional toll that COVID has had. So I think it's really, I'm really excited to hear what they've got to say on that. Heather believes that the best solution comes from a lens of empathy, listening to clients really in depth to provide strategic planning and reframing all of these traditional thoughts of what we, you know, used to think that workplace design was. So she's an extremely well-accredited professional. It really denotes her expertise in human health and wellness in the built environment. She's also a certified interior designer, and she's got an evidence-based design accreditation and certification. Pretty impressive. Amin is the chair of the Certificate of Environmental Design Research Association. That's a lot of words right there, okay? But at HGA, he's part of the core team leading the company's national research and design strategy efforts for shaping the future of work in the workplace. He's taught in a number of educational institutions, including the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee for 7 years and IDEOU for 3. In 2018, he was actually selected Upstart 50 for Disrupting Design Theory by Silicon Valley Business Journal and the San Francisco Business Times, so no stranger to the Bay. And his publications and awards are in areas that specifically influence organizational change, work and innovation spaces, design thinking, community of practice, and people space analytics. So bottom line, I'm going to learn a lot today. I know you all are. So without stealing any more time from these great panelists, I'm going to kick it over to both of them, and they're going to present HGA's findings.
Thank you, Danielle. You did quite a good job of talking about our credentials, especially Amin. So I'm very privileged to be here with Amin, talking about, social connectivity and what the future of workplace looks like. Just to give you a little bit of insight into HGA, we have 11 offices nationwide, 4 of them in California, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Jose, and Los Angeles. And we've done over 14 million square feet of workplace projects. These are just a few samples of actually our projects in Northern California. I think we're getting a lag. Okay, there we go. I noticed a lag earlier, so please let me know. It might be just on my end. These are some samples of our workplace and technology clients, specifically here in Northern California. We are going to talk a little bit about a few of these clients and what we're doing for them right now.
So if you're a facility leader, employee of an organization, work for design industry in general, you're probably already dealing with some of these questions of which employees will come back, what will happen to my amenity and collaboration spaces. Do I need more dividers and panels? Do we need more offices and cubicles? Should I design for short-term solutions, or should I go and just rethink the entire workplace? And how do I bring back my critical group? So there are some of the questions that all of us are dealing with, and kind of getting frustrated sometimes. And so often we kind of think about, I wish we had a crystal ball that we could look into and get the answer to some of these questions. Well, we don't have that, but we have something that is pretty like as good as it can get, basically, which is lots and lots of data. And the data from this survey comes from 3,600 responses across 13 industries, from tech all the way to hospitality. And this was a very comprehensive survey in a way that it had 33 questions, both quantitative and qualitative responses from employees and leaders of these 13 of organizations across 13 industries. So there were a lot of open-ended responses that we analyzed as well. So with that, we kind of categorized all the responses of this survey into 5 categories and 5 chapters that we're going to go through, Heather and I. But before every chapter, we kind of wanted to get a pulse check and see how do you feel about work from home in general? What's going on your mind? And kind of maybe compare the results as we're moving forward, comparing the results from your thoughts with what we have found so far. So if you don't mind, we're going to take probably 30 seconds. There is a survey popping up on your screen right now. If you could take it, it's basically asking, what do you like most about working from home? And you can choose all the options. You can have multiple options. And basically, some of the options are pretty, you should be familiar with. It's like, it has to do with flexibility, it has to do with no commuting to work, more time with family. So let's take 30 seconds, and if you don't mind taking this quick poll, that would be awesome. And our brilliant friend and colleague Olivia here is taking there you go. So we have a few responses here. No commute to work, 88%. Flexibility in work hours, 82%. Heather.
All right. Yeah. So flexibility in work hours and no commute to work. So the first core insight that we learned is that people appreciate controlling their work day, such as not having to commute to work and the ability to be close to food and their own nutrition in their house. So in our survey of 3,600 people, these were the top responses that we got. Again, access to food, more time with family. But the top 3 responses are flexibility of work hours, being trusted to do my job without being supervised, and of course, the most common response is not having to commute, which seems to be, very relevant of what you respondents are saying here today. We specifically asked how these activities that support human health and wellness are being done while working from home compared to working in the office. And as you can see here, the activity of being able to adjust your own temperature and light levels, as well as access to daylight and outdoors, is much easier for many people while working from home. And then on the left side here, you can see, again, the flexibility of working from home also provides the flexibility for people of where they want to work and their different work modes. So maybe one day they're working at their desk and another day they're working at the sofa or in the backyard, as well as, again, taking breaks, having the flexibility of where they take breaks. And you can see here in this graph that people are being able to do these types of functions in various spaces. Excuse me. So this is another question for you in our poll. Which of the following types of breaks feels better to you? Taking a break from work in the office or taking a break from work at home? We'll just take a couple seconds here since this is a really quick one. So having that authorship and autonomy has actually been very valuable to people. And a lot of people, one of their main common concerns is when they return to the office that they will not have that authorship anymore. So the poll shows that taking breaks at home are more important or more valuable, and you have more quality breaks doing it from home. So we asked now what you don't miss about the workplace: light and temperature levels, distractions of other people in the office, and again, the most common response was the commute. And we're seeing that the value, the time saved from commuting is being time spent on more valuable activities, such as spending time with your family, exercising, doing other work, and getting more rest. So you can see the quality of breaks and time spent is much different than if you were in the workplace. Having the autonomy for distribution and frequency levels of your break times, and also the variety, like resting in your own bed, or again, hanging out with your family or prepping for dinner. These are things that you cannot do in the workplace, and people are really appreciating the ability of doing this from home, completely unplugging. So this is one that's specifically relevant to me. When I'm in the office, my break is more of maybe having a social interaction with somebody, and a lot of times I end up scheduling a lunch meeting, so I'm not even getting that break. So being at home, I'm able to completely unplug, again, and doing the types of things that are more relevant to myself in my personal life. And that guilt-free opportunity to take a break without feeling judged or observed by somebody is definitely a plus that everybody is feeling. So moving on to what you actually miss about the workplace, you can choose all that you apply here. Again, we're looking for your feedback, opportunity to unexpectedly running into others, an opportunity to immediately connecting with others, in-person collaboration, and the workplace resources such as great Wi-Fi and good technology altogether. Your desk that you have, maybe you have the adjustable height desk. So we'll just take a few seconds here. Waiting in anticipation.
Yeah,
Okay.
in person. Yeah, Heather, it was kind of, we were chatting about these results prior to the presentation, and pretty much what we're seeing here: in-person collaboration with coworkers, social environment. When we ask people, and this is the third chapter, that's when things take a turn, and everything from work from home is amazing and flexible and high quality. People start expressing the things that they're missing about the workplace and the value of it in their workday. on the top of the list, the stuff that people are missing is in-person collaboration, the social environment, just like how it was reflected in the real-time poll. The rituals that people have, just running into each other, immediately connecting with others instead of sending a Skype message or an email to someone and getting into the queue to get a response. So these are the social side is really high priority. And just like the previous bar chart that Heather showed you in terms of access to daylight, natural light, that everything was blue, here everything that has to do with the social side of our workflow is red and purple. So if you take a look at this, for example, social bonds with work friends, collaboration with colleagues, connection with my team, everything is on the red and purple side, and which has gotten more difficult or somewhat difficult, and the gray is stayed the same. And there's a small percentage of people that have said it has gotten much easier. So it means that our main design challenge, and we're thinking about panels and dividers and all of that, the main design challenge is not really creating a work environment that is setting people 6 feet apart and isolating them from each other, because that's not what people are motivated. That's not what is motivating people to return to the workplace. The real challenge, as a matter of fact, is how to bring people together, a sense of community, is the collaboration. So that's what is going to take a lot of energy from us to start designing and brainstorming about. And we did a little bit of that too. And we're going to share examples of how that intensity of the social environment could happen in the workplace. So we crafted this question for ourselves: how might we bring employees together safely? And we started brainstorming about a third way of working, where employees in a very extreme scenario, you get these places where people have access to those quality breaks and the home quality environments, but then their furniture and the individual desks are organized in a campfire mode, that people can visually see each other and feel each other's presence, and even start talking to each other across this little pond, but not necessarily being too close to each other. So kind of creating that sense of community. The fourth chapter that has to do with membership is basically asking, who are those people that are going to come back to the workplace? One of the questions that we asked folks was, where do you feel most creative and productive? And we asked them, and we gave them 3 options: home, office, and both. And obviously, majority of people said, 50%, they're more productive and creative at home. But then when you look at the traits and behaviors of that 20% of people, those are going to be your early adopters. These are the people that want to return to the workplace. And we're going to gear or redesign the workplace, paying attention to the needs and motivations of these folks. When you look at this 20%, you realize that their main motivation to return to the workplace is also social, not surprisingly. It's socially driven. It has to do with face-to-face interaction. It has to do with more effective access to their colleagues. Another interesting thing about this demographic, about this 20%, is that most of them are on the executive level, director level, and manager. So as we move to the base of the organization, more people are willing to continue work from home or enjoying their work from home. As you move higher up to the organization, people prefer to return to the workplace. So here's a thought experiment, imagining that we have this 100%, and you get this 20% of people who want to return to the workplace, and you get in a specific location, you have this 20% of people who get their problem solving or their energy from being with other people. They rely on social interaction, face-to-face interaction, and they're mostly on the higher level of organization. What will happen? What will happen is that you get a kind of a concentration of power and decision making about maybe project direction or even promotion. So it kind of what could happen in the long term is marginalizing folks that are not physically present in the workplace to some level. There's a conversation about equity and equality of access. There's going to be a question about how to be closer to the source of power. So, and in essence, membership to be part of this exclusive community is being physically present in the place. The last chapter that has to do with resilience is basically looking at how people's preference about working from home has changed over time. From early April that we opened the survey, all the way to the end of May that we closed the survey, the number of people who reported higher productivity at home grew by 20%. So, and we got a lot of qualitative comments, a lot of open-ended comments like this. Teleworking immediately changed the entire concept of workday for me. At first, the transition was difficult, but later it got easy. At first, teleworking was hard, but then it felt very natural. So we have this resilience in employees and in users to leverage. And building on this concept of resilience, and you might have seen a diagram like this, that how are we going to go about redesigning and reimagining the workplace of the future? Intuitively, the first thing that comes to our mind is that if we look at the diagram of the level of effort being the vertical and the time being horizontal, there is this assumption that work from home might be, I mean, a very simplified version of thinking about it. Work from home might go away in the near future. Then we're going to focus on a re-entry phase, think about how to bring our employees back. And after that's done, we're going to think about the reimagining the workplace of the future, which is going to be a larger effort. But our suggestion is don't be like this. Basically be like this, which is thinking about, hey, work from home based on the data that we're receiving is not going to go anywhere. Work from home is part of that third way of working, is going to be with us because a lot of people are enjoying their high level of productivity, wellness. So the trick is using the re-entry process as a prototype for shaping the workplace of the future, not as a phase that happens prior to designing the workplace. So this might be a little bit contrary to the to kind of foreseeing the future, forecasting the future, because this perspective is basically advocating let's build the future proactively as opposed to try to predict it. So going back to these 6 questions, kind of wrapping up the survey part, which employees will come back? We kind of talked about their demographic and their persona, which has to do with people higher level of organization. These are the people that get their work done as a result of face-to-face interaction and being in the presence of others. Amenity and collaboration spaces, what will happen to those? They're going to be more important than ever because they're the main reason for these folks, for your demographic, for the 20% to come back to the workplace. So if you're thinking about, hey, maybe we should replace them with more desks, or maybe we don't need them because they're the source of, because we don't have any reason to bring people together in the workplace and it could be dangerous or unsafe. We have to think about it twice, and we just need to think about how to redesign them. More dividers and panels, or do we need more offices and cubicles? Being isolated is not, although there are basic safety precautions that come to our mind, these are not the motivations that will bring people back to the office, or at least the people who want to come back to the office are not thinking about coming in and being isolated. Although, again, taking into consideration the safety aspect. Should I design for short-term transition or future workplace? The be like this, don't be like this diagram is basically telling us if we become strategic about designing the short-term transition, we're going to use it as a way of shaping the future workplace. And then eventually, last question, how do I bring back critical groups? And that goes back to a change management perspective and organizational change that we didn't cover in this presentation. We'll be more than happy to do it. Heather is one of our thought leaders in the field of change management, organizational change. We could certainly get together again and chat more deeply about how to make this transition happen. And put a little bit of check marks and light bulbs here. So just before going to the next part, which is basically showing a few examples of how we are thinking about this transition phase and prototypes, there's another survey which is asking, are you ready to return to the office? For options, the first one is no, I can, or I need to continue to work remotely, just like me. The second one, I think I already ruined the survey because I introduced bias. The second one is saying, yes, I want the same hours and same office with basic health and safety protocols. Third one is saying, yes, but I want to reimagine hours, more flexible hours, and same office with basic health and safety protocols. And the last one is saying reimagining everything. I want reimagine hours, flexible hours, and reimagining the entire workplace. Let's take 20 seconds to 30 seconds. Heather.
That's me. Number 4 is me.
Awesome. Introducing more. Yeah.
Okay. It's like 33% yes, but reimagined hours, more flexibility in hours, same office, and definitely health and safety protocols. 28% yes, but I want reimagined hours and reimagined office.
Close race.
So, yeah, that is kind of the tail end of our survey results portion. And so we have a few projects that we can talk about how we're working with our clients now for short term and, prototyping and brainstorming with them for the future, like Amin was talking about. So PayPal is one of our clients in San Jose. Their office is 110,000 square feet. And we worked with them, we've worked with them in the past, they're a reoccurring client, and we're now working with them again to look at their short-term goals coming back into the workplace and the future. So if you look at the next slide, this floor plan is more evaluating what their workspace looks like now and how in the short term we can provide that social distancing and safety and the necessary protocols in order to start getting people back into the workplace now or in the near future, depending on where you're located. Some people are starting to definitely get back into the workplace now. So the circles represent, where people will actually not sit. So the purple people will sit in those areas, and then the green people won't sit in those areas. And then on rotating days, it will flip. So the green people would come in on maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays while the purples work from home. And then you can see some of the path of travel areas. So we're working with them now to address, how a smaller quantity of people can start coming into the workplace. And then more in the long term, as Amin was looking at in terms of what our future workplace looks like, and taking that flexibility and control and, reimagined hours, what that would look like in a new workspace. And on the top half, you can see these are more flexible environments for people to work in. Maybe they're going to be collaborating with a group and having a big meeting one day, and so they would come into the office for that one day and be in more of a flexible work environment. Maybe it's a lounge area or more open conference area. So that's what you can see more on the upper side of the plan. And then the lower side of the plan shows larger workstations to, again, accommodate that 6 feet of social distancing. And we're working with them now to develop this further for the future. So that's PayPal.
Yeah, and Hitachi is another client of ours, Santa Clara. We did a renovation for their headquarters, 225,000 square foot. And like many other tech clients, this is pretty much kind of a stuff the duck concept, that you want to have as many desks and as many employees on your floor plan. And this was kind of 113 square foot per person. And this is their existing floor plan. We did prior COVID, pre-COVID. And as you can see, when we start drawing these circles that I'm pretty sure you're already tired of seeing all these circle floor plans, there are a lot of overlaps happening. So the first option that we started thinking about was how can we just reuse the existing furniture and start reconfiguring them. And if we wanted to follow this stuff, the duck concept, and fit as many people as possible, how many individual desks can we get on the floor plan? and how would the square foot per person would change. So it changed from 113 a square foot per person to 145 a square foot per person. The other option would be if we wanted to take a more radical approach and think about new furniture, new design, but with minimal intervention at the same time. So not moving any of the bearing wall, not moving any of the conference rooms or meeting rooms, only changing the furniture inside. And we call this option the campfire approach. And this is based on the idea that people come to the office to be part of the community and work in presence of each other. And this scheme presents these green islands, the green islands around which individual desks are organized, almost like being around a campfire. And although people are distanced, they see each other or even can talk to each other across the campfire. And the green island is almost like a mini community hub. And it's a place for art, for community announcement, for memorabilia, and of course, lots and lots of plants. So rotating the furniture to look at the campfire and people being able to see each other across the campfire. The point here is that the campfire is not necessarily its main use is not for collaboration, but it's for maintaining connection. The second option that and the third option that we brainstorm about, and these options, by the way, campfire and destination plan that I'm going to show you, they're about 195 square foot per person. This one basically offers highly flexible spaces that help the office to transform to future scenarios. The two spaces on the south and the north offer these features that would help folks to retreat, restore, recharge, and connect away from the office's busy life. And if everybody returns to office a year from now, 6 months from now, the company can take over these two spaces and fill them up with desks. If a vaccine is discovered, but people still decide to work remotely for a few days a week, because we're not going to unlearn what we learn even when a vaccine is discovered, then the company can turn these spaces into collaboration spaces because our survey says that's the main motivation for people to return to the office. With that, Heather, any final thoughts?
I don't think so. I think that's great. I think we're going to move into Q&A.
You got it.
All right. Well, all right. So this is the time where if anybody is sitting out there and wants to ask them questions, please throw it in Q&A now. You know, I would say, you know, there are definitely no dumb questions as far as this goes. So please, you know, toss us some creative thoughts you have. I have a few myself. You know, and again, I think this probably has very little to do with what you guys just talked about, but I'm really curious. This is kind of just off the wall. A lot of people are wearing a lot of yoga pants. How do you think this is going to affect just office attire overall long term? I mean, again, it's a little bit of an aside from the work that you're doing, but just wanted to throw a fun one in there and see if anybody has any opinions.
I do. I think it's related to, you know, the ability to see somebody working from home and seeing like their dog or their kids walking behind them in more of a relaxed environment. I know I attend Zoom meetings in more relaxed attire usually than when I did in the office. So I think just in general, there's more acceptance and appreciation for that casual side and the ability to be flexible in that. I can't answer specifically to yoga pants, but that's kind of a related idea.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm rotating through a really great collection of the good yoga pants day and, you know, the bottom of the drawer yoga pants day. But, you know, but a little bit more serious of a question, you know, again, you were showing us PayPal and Hitachi. You know, we're hearing a lot in terms of, you know, kind of either returning or reinventing the hub and spoke model for office users, you know. So, where we saw a lot of consolidations, now we're, hearing a lot of rumors about them, putting hub and spoke locations in a region. So that's something we're keeping a close eye on. Is that an opportunity for Greater Sacramento to attract some of these firms? We're working on data analysis right now to see how many employees do we already have in this region that could really be a huge jumpstart to some of these larger Bay Area tech firms to doing that in the region. What insight do you have on maybe what some, what the trend is looking like, and any predictions for the future on that?
A few thoughts on that. And the reason, Danielle, that I didn't have an idea on yoga pants is that I don't wear yoga pants in general, so I didn't have an insight on it. But even prior to the pandemic, I mean, I wear usually casual clothes, so I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how it's gonna have an impact on office attire. The hub and spoke kind of model for the workplace, which basically the idea of, yes, focus on people who are going to come back in the short term, and those are your 20% that are craving social interaction, that are craving social connectedness, and the hub and spoke model could pretty much provide it. But one thing that we shouldn't lose sight on is you still get the gray 50% of people that are outside of the perimeter of that 20%. So there's a level of, again, technology integration, which is going to have an impact on our meeting rooms, on how we're using those huddle spaces that we traditionally use only for face-to-face interactions. Now they're going to be, in the future, they're going to be hopefully rethought in a sense that they're going to become physical virtual hub and spoke models, as opposed to just have an impact on the physicality of the office.
Wow. Well, piggybacking off that, we had a question from Randy Dixon, then I have one more. But he wanted to know, when you consider collaboration and amenities to be a priority for those coming back, in addition to the campfire, what other considerations are businesses looking at? You mentioned technology. What else?
I'll chime in first here. I mean, I think that one of the main amenities that we talked about in the survey is the flexibility to work from home and the flexibility of work hours. So I don't think that we're going to see everybody coming back into the office all together. I think there's going to be more of a phased approach, and also continued flexibility. And that's why we have collaboration areas, so that when you need to collaborate in person and have those physical connections with people, which is probably quite often, that you're able to go into the office and use those spaces for those.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think Heather covered it. The only thing that I would add is being intentional about that transition, as opposed to kind of leaving it to self-declaration and having people just raise their hand and be like, hey, I'm ready to come back. So looking at it from a more team perspective, and how the coupling of physical virtual can help the entire team, and helping and scheduling for teams to be able to use the office at certain times per week, as opposed to only relying on individuals, and see which ones are ready to come back.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, all right. I've got two more questions before we wrap up. Again, another kind of a trail on to the space configuration and then amenities. So, because everyone said, and this is from Amanda Frazier, said their break time or time replacing their commute is really high quality. They're loving that, right? So for a new office development, are there a couple of key features you suggest need to be incorporated to increase their break time quality? Now that people have been, a little bit spoiled and enjoying this better break time quality, what can we do in the office space?
Yeah, this is an amazing question. I mean, I remember that we had a client in the Midwest, and I don't know if the audience are familiar. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with journey mapping. So and it's a research method, or a method of collecting people's thoughts and emotions throughout a typical day. And when we did the journey mapping for employees of that company, we realized that people actually start their day and they're in a very crappy mood. I mean, they have to drop off their kid in the morning. They haven't had a cup of coffee. They have emails accumulated overnight. So when you start mapping their emotional fluctuations throughout the day, they start their day in a very negative mood, which have an impact on the rest of their day. So well, I would say like the first course of action is trying to think that what and when are those moments that people need to take a break throughout a typical day, and then thinking about, hey, what are those amenity spaces or physical spaces that we can design around those life moments. In the case of the Midwestern company, we designed an office and we designed a coffee shop at the point of entrance. So instead of a reception, people step into the aroma of coffee and sound of people chatting and baked goods and stuff, as opposed to in a stepping into a sterile reception desk. So knowing that moment, that stressful moment, is the moment that they come in the morning, and replacing that moment with something more evocative help that particular company. So I guess, like, in summary, this is very tailored, looking at those life moments, the moments that matter, and then designing the physicality around that. And it could be a very tailored amenity space related to the culture of the company.
Very cool. So get creative. All right. Last question is, Jason wanted to know, are you planning an update to the survey? But either way, if so, what differences do you think you will or would see now versus, April, May?
Heather?
Amin, you want to answer that?
Yeah, got it. Yeah, sure. I mean, this is only my gut feeling that I think that we've seen a surge of, when we started the survey, we saw a lot of people being stressed out about not having access to the physical office. But then over time, we saw more people wanting to work from home, so they got used to it. The resiliency kicked in. My gut feeling is that it's moving over time. The number of people who want to return back to the office is going to increase, and there's going to be a pendulum swing as people are kind of, as companies and people start seeing the downside of not being in the presence of each other physically.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I also think that productivity might change, because we're seeing in our previous survey that we completed that productivity has increased over time. They're getting used to it, working from home, but maybe it's going to look different in the long term. And again, people are going to want to return to the office. I laughed because, I mean, much like everybody else on this call, I'm sure, we're talking about it, having these conversations with each other constantly. And we were just talking about this yesterday and how it really impacts the future of how we work. And I know that everybody else is talking about it. So I hope this provided a little bit of light and excitement into our future.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, with that, to kind of close up, there is excitement because I've already gotten requests from people wanting to make sure that they can either, get a copy of the slides of the recording. So definitely the recording will be available. I think you've got contact information for Heather and Amin if you want to chat with them directly. So I really want to thank HGA for partnering with us on this webinar. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget, we have a full panel going on next week that's going to really elaborate on this topic even more. And we're going to have folks from Salesforce, Power School, Experis, and HGA coming back and returning and diving into the data, and then really discussing more about how they're applying it day to day and working to improve the employee experience long term. So I think it'll be a great discussion to hear perspectives from those companies as well. So again, if you had questions that didn't get answered today, submit them to the email that you see on the screen, events@greatersacramento, and then we can use those for next week or follow up separately. And you will get a link to fill out a survey and a link to the video from today. So I thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank again our wonderful panelists for sharing your insight and knowledge, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
We had fun. Take care.